everyone. Okay, so now we're gonna get started. First, I'll be going over our background on DEP and our solids handling system. And then Andrea will go into the drivers for the RFEIs, the request for expression of interest that we're putting out. And then we will talk about the individual RFEIs, the differences between them, and kind of like the specifics of them. Okay. Working, sorry. All right, so apologize, I don't know what's happening here. We're having some issues with our mouse at this conference room.
Yeah, just give us a minute while we sort this out.
Okay, so the New York City DEP has a tremendous task of protecting the environment and public health. From our water supply standpoint, we deliver about 1.1 billion gallons of water to over 8 million New Yorkers every day. Wastewater treatment, we treat about 1.3 billion gallons of wastewater daily, with a huge network of miles of sewers and pumping stations. And we own and operate 14 water resource recovery facilities. We recently acquired a new task in terms of resiliency. Now we're responsible for managing the city's coastal resiliency planning, and we continue to implement green infrastructure to mitigate stormwater flooding. And last but not least, we enforce the codes to reduce air pollution, noise pollution, and regulate hazardous waste. So New York City's solids treatment, conveyance, and dewatering is complex. We have 14 treatment plants, as we mentioned. Each of those plants has anaerobic digestion. And in total, we have 75 anaerobic digesters across the city. Of these 14 treatment plants, 6 of them have dewatering capabilities. We employ dewatering centrifuges to dewater our digested sludge. And then we have a whole fleet of vessels that take sludge from non-dewatering facilities to dewatering facilities. And we also have 3 sludge force mains that convey digested sludge from non-dewatering facilities to dewatering facilities. In addition, we also send a portion of our digested sludge to the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission in Newark, New Jersey, through an intermunicipal agreement that we have with PBSC. We produce approximately 1,300 wet tons of solids per day on average. Approximately 110 of that equivalent wet tons is what is processed by PBSC in New Jersey. This graph here is showing you the average production of all the dewatering facilities, those that are centralized facilities, and those that are not centralized facilities. So you get an idea of how much each of these can process. And we rely on outside vendors to treat and distribute our biosolids to beneficial end-use sites, markets, or landfills. So this chart here is showing the data for 2022. In that year, we produced about 470,000 wet tons. The data for 2023 is going to become available soon, so that's why we couldn't publish it. But it's going to be looking very similar. It's the same types of end-use sites that we have. And you can see here the proportions are roughly 44% to beneficial reuse, 14% productive reuse is what we call alternately landfill cover, and 43% is going to landfill. We also have a very small percentage, 1%, that is going to direct land application. And this is from one of our smallest facilities that is a Class B certified biosolids generator. So we have federal state policies that regulate biosolids. The EPA has Federal Code Part 503, which sets the standards for the treatment methods and pollutant limits and different application restrictions depending on the class type. We also want to acknowledge that EPA, as part of their PFAS strategic roadmap, is working on a risk assessment for PFOA and PFOS and biosolids, and this is expected to come winter of 2024. And this will determine whether or not EPA is going to regulate PFOA and PFOS. So we are all, like everyone else in the country, waiting to hear what's going to happen with these two compounds. In addition, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Part 361, sets the regulatory criteria for organic recycling facilities. And New York State DEC also has the Solid Waste Management Plan that is, the purpose is to protect the communities and mitigate the effects of climate change. And this plan supports the beneficial use of biosolids. And last but not least, the New York State Department of DEC also just released the program policy number 7, biosolids recycling in your state, which is the interim control of PFAS compounds. And it's establishing interim limits for PFOS and PFOA and certain actions that will be taken based on the results. So right now, this went into effect in October of 2024. However, sampling is commencing April of this year, and they're doing this through SUNY. And so we are going to be part of the facilities that are going to be sampled in that round of testing. And just, you know, most of our biosolids are actually not reused in New York State currently, so we still have to comply with state-specific policies wherever our biosolids end up. We also conducted a test of our, basically a baseline study for our biosolids, characterization study for our biosolids in 2019 and 2020. And you can see here, these are just the median test results for the different parameters that we looked at. These are not all the parameters that we looked at. We looked at much more. But this was just to give us an idea on the characteristics of our biosolids, the energy content of it, the nutrient content, and we also tested for all the pollutants that are regulated by EPA, and they were all below the thresholds set by New York State and EPA. And we also do internal monitoring of heavy metals, and we have not seen any pollutant exceedances in recent years. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Andrea to go over the drivers and goals for the RFEIs that we're releasing.
Okay, so these biosolids RFEIs are really part of a larger effort for DEP to increase the beneficial reuse of all the materials generated at our wharfs. We did start this effort with beneficial reuse of biogas in April of 2023. And then in August, we released one for the expansion of our co-digestion program. Of course, today we are going to be focusing only on the biosolids RFEIs. So we released the in-city RFEI last month, and we're anticipating releasing a second biosolids RFEI focused on regional use in the spring of 2024. And just as a quick overview, the main goal for the in-city RFEI is to achieve 5% in-city beneficiary use. And the main goal for the regional RFEI is 100% landfill diversion. And I do just want to take a moment to clarify that these are requests for expressions of interest, and this does differ from a request for proposals or an RFP. We do use these RFEIs to gain information about technologies and markets and to identify vendors in the fields. But as of now, we do not have a specific proposal for vendors. I will say typically at the end of the RFEI process, we do meet with qualified vendors. And at this point, we are really excited to hear about opportunities and technologies that we are less familiar with. We are really open to new ideas. And along the line, we might put out an RFP based on information that we gather, which would be an opportunity for vendors to respond to more specific proposals. So now I'm going to zoom out a bit and discuss the two RFEIs and how they're going to advance our work towards achieving our climate and policy goals. there is definitely some overlap between them. We are hoping to advance a circular economy for organics and advance environmental justice, as well as reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I'm going to be discussing some of that in more detail in a minute. We also do really see both these RFEIs as an opportunity to advance both our local green economy and our regional green economy. Specific to the in-city RFEI is we are looking for respondents who are interested in projects on site in our facilities. We see this as an opportunity to modernize our wastewater treatment operations. And for the in-city reuse, we would like to demonstrate the value of biosolids. We have come up with the 5% goal to acknowledge that we do produce just a tremendous volume, and New York City doesn't have a lot of open green space where we could apply this. And also, if you think about it, New York City's food shed really comes from around the world. So we're importing food as well as the nutrients globally. So we really wouldn't want to be applying all those nutrients just in city. And specific to the regional RFEI is that we want to advance our goal of achieving energy and carbon neutrality, which I'll also talk more about in a minute. So both these biosolids RFEIs really are about advancing a local and regional green economy. Recycling organics is a key sector of the green economy. And this is part of a larger effort in New York City to transform the way that we are managing organic waste. We've had plans to increase our diversion of food scraps from our household solid waste, as well as to recycle yard waste, and biosolids are obviously a key component of this plan. This chart on the right is from NYC's climate plan, Plan NYC Getting Sustainability Done. And this really outlines some of the pathways to recycle our organic material and put them back as inputs. And you can see our wastewater recovery facilities are a huge part of this. So as part of this plan, we really do want to encourage local and regional biosolids processing, and we're going to need to identify new vendors and new technologies to partner with. Another key component that is shared between both of the RFEIs is that they aim to advance environmental justice. New York City as a whole has been working towards addressing environmental injustices and inequities in our built environment. As you can see on the map on the right, most of DEP's water resource recovery facilities are located in communities that have been designated by the state as disadvantaged. So our wharfs are the green pins, and anything in that light orange color are the disadvantaged communities. And this is because our facilities are located in our coastal manufacturing zones. And in the past several decades, there's been residential expansion there as well. And this does typically consist of low-income communities and communities of color. We do want to acknowledge that the transportation and processing of biosolids can inadvertently contribute to air pollutant emissions. This can be pollutions from processing itself, or air pollutant emissions from diesel trucks for transportation. There's also a potential for odors and spills that can occur during transportation. So as we work to increase our beneficial reuse of biosolids, we are aiming to minimize potential impacts on communities that do have environmental justice concerns. And we will be incorporating this into our decision-making process as we work to advance the beneficial use of biosolids. The regional RFEI is really aimed at supporting our goal of achieving 100% landfill diversion of our wastewater solids. We aim to do this by 2030. Diverting biosolids from landfills is going to be a key strategy to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. This will allow us to reach some of our New York City goals, including Local Law 97 of 2019. This mandates city operations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 50% by 2030. It will also help DEP reach our internal goals. We do have a goal of achieving agency-wide carbon neutrality by 2050 and energy neutrality at our wharfs by 2050. And we really won't be able to achieve those goals if we keep landfilling biosolids. The chart on the right shows the greenhouse gas emissions from several different biosolid management options. This is a study that DEP commissioned specific to New York City. And it shows the emissions in CO2e for every metric ton of biosolids. So as you can see, landfilling generates substantial greenhouse gas emissions, over 1.5 metric tons per every dry metric ton that is landfilled. And this is really driven by the methane that is made when we landfill the biosolids because of the anaerobic conditions. But if we look at the beneficial use options, including composting, alkaline stabilization, and thermal drying, they all do have net negative greenhouse gas emissions. And this is because of the carbon sequestration from land application, avoiding those methane emissions in the landfills, as well as replacing industrial fertilizers that are often generated using fossil fuels. So now we're going to discuss the RFEI questions in a little bit more detail. First, I do want to give an overview of the RFEIs and highlight their differences. They both do aim to identify partners and strategies to increase beneficial reuse, but there are differences in their scope. In terms of class, for the in-city RFEI, we really are only interested in Class A EQ biosolids. These are because of the land restrictions for Class B biosolids, and they're just not suitable for a land application in a dense urban area like New York City. But for the regional RFEI, we are open to both Class A or Class B biosolids. The in-city RFEI is targeting 65 wet tons per day, and that's because that is 5% of our total production. And the regional RFEI, we're looking at around 250 to 400 wet tons per day, and we're really only targeting the portion that's currently being landfilled. So that's the amount that we have opportunities to put to beneficial reuse. For processing locations, in-city RFEI, we are open to projects on our facilities, and we really do want to see a development of New York City's green economy. So we would like in-city processing, and we also want to avoid, exporting our biosolids long distances and then importing them back in the city for beneficial reuse. However, we understand that siting waste facilities in New York City is incredibly challenging, and we definitely also want to hear from regional respondents who would be interested in sending material back from the city. Our reuse location for the in-city is obviously within New York City, and then we do have the regional reuse markets. Some of the markets we're thinking of targeting for the in-city include landscaping as well as urban agriculture. And I want to clarify, for urban agriculture, we're really thinking fertilizers created from nutrient extraction. And then the regional RFEI, it's more of the common biosolids, beneficial reuse strategies, including agriculture and land reclamation. I do have some potential products that we are hoping to receive responses from, but I just want to make sure it's clear that we're not limited to these. We definitely want to hear about any ideas from respondents. For the in-city RFEI, we are thinking of blended and mulch and topsoil products that contain biosolids. And we're also open if anyone has proposals for some emerging beneficial use strategies like biopolymers or brick manufacturing. And the regional RFEI, we're thinking more along the lines of soil amendments, fertilizers, and then biochar created from pyrolysis. So I'm going to discuss a little bit more detail about the in-city RFEI questions. The first category of these is really our on-site project conceptualization. So we want to hear about potential opportunities to upgrade our facilities so that DEP can produce our own Class A EQ biosolids on site. And along these lines, we're also open to hearing about installing technologies for nutrient extraction from wastewater. We see this as an alternative method to beneficially reuse the nutrients in the wastewater that is alternative to the biosolid land application. The second category of questions is identifying potential off-takers and markets. So we definitely want responses from vendors who are interested in receiving our dewatered solids for additional stabilization off-site. We do want to hear about end users and land application sites within New York City if there is any interest to obtain Class E EQ biosolids for land application. And then also vendors who are interested in producing or manufacturing the biosolid manufacturing products that I described before. Now I'm going to pass it on to Natalia to talk about the regional questions.
So the regional RFEI is broken down into two categories. We have the kind of third-party outside handler or applier, which basically means we're looking to see out there who wants to take basically our Class B biosolids generated at our sites, to see if there's a demand for more Class B biosolids to be generated at our sites. And we also want to hear from third-party preparer sites like biosolids management facilities that treat biosolids in conventional ways, such as the one we're already employing, drying, alkaline stabilization, and composting and the like, that already have established markets. And we also want to hear from emerging biosolids treatment and beneficial use markets from emerging technologies, such as, let's say, pyrolysis and biochar. And specifically, we want to hear about technologies that can treat for PFAS. I think that's all that we have. We mainly want to hear the questions that you have about these biosolids. If you have further inquiries about the in-city RFEI that has already been out, you can reach out to Vanessa Soto. The other RFEI, the regional RFEI, is going to come out sometime in the spring. And we can open up to questions now.
I just did want to add that if you want to be on the distribution list, you can email me. That way for the regional RFEI, I can make sure that you receive a copy as soon as it's published, and my email address is listed.
All right, thank you, Andrea and Natalia. Greatly appreciate it. It looks like we do have a couple of questions already. We have one from Erica Dole. She asks, will you work with New York DOT, Department of Transportation, to add biosolid fertilizer to their approved material list for projects to help to replace industrial fertilizers?
I mean, yeah, that would be a great partnership to work with DOT to see if they're interested in taking our biosolids. I know that there's a larger effort being done by WEF on kind of coordinating this on a national level. But yeah, we would be definitely, that would be a great reuse of our biosolids if DOT is willing and able to take our treated biosolids, yes.
I would just add that that's a big push of the reason why we are issuing this, is because we really need the Class A EQ before we can strategize some of these beneficial reuses.
There was a similar question from Kendall Christensen asking if city agencies would become users such as DOT or parks.
Yeah, we definitely are looking to explore those opportunities. We know other cities like Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. are land applying biosolids on tree beds and in parks. So that is a model we have been closely following. And this is sort of our first step, again, like I said, to achieve the Class A EQ that we need so we can work towards in-city beneficial reuse.
We have another question. What will be the outcome of the RFEI? Will one respondent be awarded a contract?
Yeah, so the RFEIs are more of an exploratory step. They're kind of the first step before we would develop an RFP. So the outcome would be that we meet with qualified respondents once we receive all the responses, and that could be used to develop an RFP down the line where we would be reaching out for a specific contract.
Great. And then another question. Are the new digesters at Hunts Point planning to achieve Class A status biosolids in order to go toward the in-city application?
Yeah, so the new digesters being constructed currently are going to have the capability of thermophilic operation, and they're going to be installing also batch tanks that is going to help us produce our own Class A biosolids. However, this is a few years down the line. I think the implementation for that project is going to start by 2032. And as I understand the design, it currently does not, we would have to acquire the heat exchangers for the operation of thermophilic. So the design planned for that operation, but it doesn't have all the all of the elements to actually be able for us to be able to operate in that mode once it's commissioned.
All right, we have another one. Can we get data from each of the 14 plants that would show the quantity in dry ton per day going into anaerobic digestion at each WRF, and data on dry ton and wet ton per day leaving each plant?
So for any data requests, you can do a FOIL request that's something that is specific. The only data that we currently have publicly available is the data that is reported in the EPA 503 reports every year. So far we have data available from 2020 to 2022. The 2023 data is going to be posted soon. But data, I guess, further upstream of kind of like our biosolids is not readily available, but you can request it via FOIL and we can work with you on getting whatever data needs you have.
Okay, thank you. All right, we do not have any questions right now. Oh, one more. Can you please send your contact information for the one that will have to reach out to get the RFEI? I believe that is Andrea, so I am sharing that in the Q&A if folks need that email, and it's also now again up on the screen. Another question, which plant do you see as the source for Class B?
Well, once the Hunts Point project is completed, Hunts Point is going to be Class B. We could obtain Class B certification for Hunts Point. There's other facilities where we could also obtain this certification upon completion of thickening projects in the future. So I guess all of the facilities that are going to be receiving mechanical thickening upgrades would qualify for being able to certify for Class B. But at the moment, the only facility that we've gone through that process of certification is Red Hook.
Well, thank you. I don't see any more questions at this time. Folks, if you have anything, please do put it in the Q&A, or if you want to take a look at the information posted in the Q&A, please do so now. Will the slide deck be made available as well as the recording? Andrea, Natalia, I believe that's a yes.
Yeah, the slide deck, yeah, and the recording, I guess, Mary, you're recording it, right?
Yep. So we can include the slide deck in a PDF as well as the recording, then probably out tomorrow to everyone who has registered. All right, I don't believe we have any other questions. So I want to thank you again, Andrea and Natalia, for bringing this to folks and explaining everything. I hope that it turns out to provide many submissions for this, and best of luck. Looking forward to seeing the next RFEI for the regional. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much, Mary, and thanks everyone.
Yes.